I'm Scott Al Miller. It's the 15th of September, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. Today I'm feeling stressed and just overwhelmed with work and stuff, and I felt like I needed to get out and go for a walk. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking a walk on a beautiful Nicaraguan afternoon in the sun, hoping some exercise will help me feel a little bit better about the day. So we're going to get to a walk. I'll bring all of you along with me. I want to point something out real quick just before we actually get to the day or my walk or whatever. So I've shown the sign a number of times, this old decrepit lottification sign that clearly comes from, 6 years ago and nothing ever happened. Well, the other side of it got painted just 2 days ago, and now you can see it. They're actually selling some lots at some completely different place. And I think they just came along with some paint and used the sign. And we're like, haha, there's no one, clearly it was an abandoned sign, so someone just used it. That's my impression. But there they are, freshly painted, selling something. Although, of course, exactly where is that, no one knows. So always a problem. If you don't know that location, there's no way to look it up. No one will have any idea. Now, in reality, I do know where that location is. Las Brasiles is the island just north of Ponaloya. So that is where the Surfing Turtle Lodge is, where our friend's place, hostel is. And there is some new stuff going on up there. So that's a real location. I had no idea that they were selling lots out there, but it is a basically empty island that is very hard to get to. So if you're looking for a really cheap location to have a really inaccessible building lot, well, there you probably go. So I have to note that I came out for a walk, and it's a little bit earlier than I often go for a walk. It's about 3:30. And of course, as I say that, a couple cars go by, but in general, I stepped out and it is exceptionally quiet out here. There's a little bit of a breeze, so it's a little bit louder on camera than it is here, because the microphone picks up the wind a little bit. And until now, there's been like no cars. So of course, as soon as I start recording, it's just solid traffic. But I stepped out and started walking and did that sign and have been a couple places, and it is just quiet out here. There's no music. There's no people. Now, there's no traffic. There's a light breeze. The sun is out. It's a tiny bit of haze or smoke or something going on over there, probably just burning trash. And that's it. It is a gorgeous afternoon. Absolutely beautiful. And just so peaceful. I have no idea why it's so exceptionally peaceful today, but I need it, right? Today, I'm just feeling... So, last week, we had some customers have some really big emergencies. And this is kind of my job, right? A lot of what I deal with is when things get really bad for customers, I tend to get brought in. When things are fine, we've got teams for that. We got people who deal with the day-to-day stuff all the time. And I guess that's what day-to-day would mean. But I tend to get brought in for the big items, for when things are really bad, when disaster has struck and it's very stressful. There's no policies and procedures. It's just, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know every possible thing. You have to be able to deal with any potential situation. You can't be referencing someone else. You can't be waiting on someone else. You can't be, right? It's just a lot. That's when I get brought in. And I did last week on, I think Thursday, we had a customer who just had huge emergency, completely impacted their business. And we've been pretty much working around the clock trying to get them back to a point where they could work. And so we worked all day Thursday, all day Friday, most of Saturday. Sunday, we had a little bit of a reprieve because we thought we had gotten things fixed. And then the systems just completely died on their own on Sunday. And we've been going crazy ever since. So it's been like 6 days of complete mayhem. And it's taken an emotional toll because we're really nice people. We want to get them back up and running. We want to do as much as we can to save their business. And it's awful for them. It's very stressful for us. Right now, I've got some things running so there's no way for me to work on their stuff for a little bit. So I'm out getting a much needed bit of exercise to help relax. All right, you need to step away from the office from time to time. And with all that going on, that's stressful because I'm worried about their business and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, we have just a lot going on. And when that gets really busy, one of the things that always gets impacted, and this makes me really upset, is I like getting out during the day and getting to go on these beautiful walks, filming for you guys. And then when it's nighttime, I like to be able to sit down and edit and have enough time to enjoy the editing process, because I really like making these videos. I like getting out and going for the walks. I like getting out in the sunshine or in the rain, whatever. If you didn't see yesterday, 2 days ago in the rain, that was extreme, but that was fun. I was prepared for it. Nothing went wrong. I really like doing that, and I'd like to get to do that more, both walks and in the rain, because this rainy season, we haven't had nearly as much rain as most years. But when things get really busy at work, especially day after day after day, one of the things that gets impacted is I can't get out during the day. Every moment that's daylight, from the moment I roll out of bed until the sun goes down, I have customers who just, it seems, continuously need me, either need me to be working or more often need me on the phone. So I'm completely tied to my desk, which I find very frustrating because I have limited time that I'm able to get out and do anything. And so being able to film takes a huge hit, and that frustrates me. And then I'm scrambling to record. I have no time to think about it, no time to like make an effort and make it good. All I can do is run out, start talking, and that's it. So I try very hard to come up with ways to minimize that. But when it gets really busy like this, there's just nothing I can do. And then it's a scramble to record it, to upload the files, and then editing. Instead of having time to sit down and edit and think and plan, it becomes a last second editing where I'm just scrambling to get the edit out in time to get it uploaded. And then the thumbnails can't be done because the amount of time it takes, like from the time I upload until like it processes, all that takes many hours, goes all through the night. So Valentina will almost every day comes in the morning and edits or makes a thumbnail for a video that just got uploaded. And so it's already live and you guys are already seeing it. The thumbnails aren't there. And we're just always behind the 8 ball. We're always scrambling to get that day's video out. I have no way to get ahead because there's so much going on with work, and that just frustrates me. And that's when I start feeling the stress. I can handle a lot of work, but when I'm not able to keep up and the things that I'm trying to do, the projects I'm trying to do are slipping, and my buffer and all that emergency time is gone, then I start to feel stressed. So feeling that stress, came out today and just going for a walk and just getting this beautiful day. I'm so glad I did this. Really needed. So I'm just out enjoying being in Nicaragua. And that's the idea, right? So everyone talks about moving here, and we all have this vision of, oh, I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna be so relaxed, and it's gonna be, you know, it's so chill and it's just paradise, and it is, right? But for me, you know, I work. So I didn't get to leave that behind. I brought all that work with me, and I'm trying to do these cool projects like this, like doing this show for you guys. And I try really hard not to miss a day. And we haven't missed a day, knock on wood, in nearly 2 years. Maybe I think it's just short of 2 years. We're just coming up on 2 years without having missed a single day of putting out an episode, and on average putting out several per day because we do the shorts and stuff. Those have really slipped. That's another thing, is I normally like to put out 2 or 3 shorts every day to go along with the show. And I can't even begin to do that because we're so far behind. So now we're scrambling just to get the main show out. So our views are dropping, even though our hourlies are growing, our audience is growing. Thank you so much for all of you who are there. But it's just, there's so much. And I have other channels that I want to be working on. I really want to get so that my day job isn't consuming my whole day, and be able to do, because I have my tech channel and I have my drive warp channel, and we have live music and all kinds of stuff that we're trying to do, and have all this media that I think is just wonderful. And actually getting it out there and getting it to you guys can be extremely hard, because my whole day is spent on a phone explaining things to customers, training people, just whatever. It's very overwhelming a lot of the time. And I'm feeling a need for a break for sure. So luckily it is just a gorgeous day, and coming out for a little bit of a walk and getting some fresh air worked out. I really needed this. So I have no real topic for today. I think our real topic is kind of keeping you up to date with how I'm doing, but also giving you that, you know, Nicaragua is what you make of it. And this is something that is always going to be the case wherever you go. You can move anywhere you want. If you bring all your stress and work and all those things with you, it's going to be stress and work, and you can improve the situation by lowering your cost of living and improving the quality of food, getting the beautiful sunlight that you didn't have, whatever. Those things are fantastic. But if you're envisioning moving somewhere and having it automatically be paradise because you're just going to not have to work anymore or whatever, well, that's something you have to figure out. Can you move there and not work? For me, I really don't enjoy not working, so my situation's a little bit different. I'm in a position where theoretically I could retire again and take that time and take the time to do nothing and really relax, but that would drive me absolutely crazy. I need projects and things going on all the time, but where I really want to be is to be able to get away from these emergency, constant on the phone type projects and getting more into media creation and travel and Nicaragua and relocation and things that are much more enjoyable, much more stress-free, hopefully, and spend more time editing and filming and walking and being outside and exercising. This is really where I want to be. And so for me, it's more about shifting what it is that I do day to day rather than eliminating the work. But for most people, it's going to be about retiring or easing back on the amount of work by coming to a place that's slower pace and less expensive or whatever. But for me, and people wonder, right, why am I working as much as I do? Why do I have as much stress as I do? Well, I am a workaholic, and I do really enjoy the work that I do, and I really like to help customers and find new customers and expand on the projects that we have. And the moment that I stop having something to do, immediately my mind starts filling the time with, well, here's a new project we could do, and then I'll take that on. And so I don't really have the ability to completely let those things go, and that's just my personality. So for me, there's always going to be a project. So my trick for myself is really identifying what projects are going to make me happy, what is going to help me feel good about the time that I spend. And for the most part, I think we're doing a pretty good job of adjusting me into those things. But I do struggle with, there's a lot of stuff at the office that simply requires my time, and there's no way around it. If there was a way around it, I would so quickly do that. But we're often running into things where I'm just needed, and there isn't a good workaround. And so I do my best to jump in and try to stay available while also trying to do things like this, like getting out and walking. So I really do put a big effort into blocking off my time in the afternoons on my calendar and saying no one can ask me to do things, no one can schedule me at meetings in the afternoon. I really need that time to be able to come out and film, to come out and relax, come out and walk. And for the most part, that works most days, but people start knowing that, well, you know, he's got it blocked off, but if we make it an emergency, well, we can take over that time, and that ends up happening a lot. And what's going on this week is such a big emergency that my calendar doesn't matter. But we've had quite a bit of travels that we've had to do this week, which have exacerbated things. There's just a lot going on. So feeling very stressed, but doing my best to deal with it, and certainly getting out here and being in this beautiful location does a lot for that. One of the big things we have coming up, and I'm going to talk about this in a few days on the 20th, I believe. My eldest daughter is 14 currently. Her birthday is coming up at the end of November, and for the first time ever, we are going to be throwing a quinceañera. This is the coming of age party. This is the equivalent of a bat mitzvah. It is a big deal, and that our daughter wanted to do it. We had a lot of talks with her about, is this something you really want to do? And she really, we were really certain this was not something that she was going to be interested in. And when we mentioned it 6 months ago or a year ago, she was like, I really think this is something I want to do. And we're all like, what, really? Oh, okay. And then as it got closer, she just stuck to it. This is something she wants to do. And now that we're getting pretty close, she's like, absolutely, this is something I want. And this is a big deal because for us, this is, first of all, it's our eldest daughter, our eldest child, but it is also because we live abroad, because we homeschool, there are so many milestones and specialty events and celebrations that don't happen. There is no graduating from high school, there's no graduating from middle school, there's no all these things that people typically celebrate, these just celebrations of life that happen at different milestones with your children, is something that we broadly don't have. And for the most part, we appreciate that. We don't want to celebrate nothingness, right? We don't want to spend tons of time celebrating meaningless things and teaching our children that celebrations don't reflect anything. We want to make them mean something. When you take the time to have a celebration, that it's purposeful. But this is a big deal. This is the one really big event that will happen like this in her lifetime, and it's the first one for us. Our other daughter is 12, so we have a number of years before she decides if this is something that she wants. So this is a really big life event for us on one hand, and on another, it's a really big deal for us at a very personal level, because it is in many ways a reflection of our desire or our attempt to raise our children abroad, to give them a much more universal kind of view of themselves and of the world and of life. And with this, very much so, because we are, we all are American. My wife and I and my eldest daughter are all born in New York. My youngest is born in Texas. My wife is Italian. I am broadly Swiss, and our natural backgrounds, our natural heritage is very not Hispanic, is not Latino. And living first in Spain and then in Panama and then in Nicaragua, now returning to Nicaragua and really making a life here and making a lot of an effort to integrate to a reasonable degree, right? We're never going to be mistaken for Nicaraguans. We're never going to be mistaken for being native from the region. None of that's ever going to happen, not in the wildest dreams. But there is a huge effort for us to learn the language and to participate in the culture and to really look at Nicaragua as being home. And my children have very much more so than we ever expected, do look at Nicaragua as home. They talk about just how much they're happy, how thrilled they are that this is where we ended up. And when we came 2.5 years ago, they were very much like, well, this is great. This is gonna be fun for our childhoods, but when we turn 18, we'll be going back to the States. And that was their take. And my eldest, right, it was even had she really wanted to move into the apartments at Austin Ranch in North Dallas. That was a huge, I'm in bright, sunny, beautiful, and this huge thunderclap just completely roiled through. That was surprising. She had already picked out the place where she wanted an apartment. She wanted to be in North Dallas. The youngest wants to be in Houston. They have these places that they had really attached to, and reasons they wanted to go back, and a life that they wanted to go back to. And now that we've been here, and long before now, both of them very much are like, no, Nicaragua is home. And it's not just home now, it's where they picture their future. It's where they want to run businesses. It's where they want to do their projects. It's where they want to spend their lives. And I think both of them are going to want to travel. I think both of them are very adventurous and have a lot of things they're going to want to do. But to at least some very important degree, both of them are seeing Nicaragua as home, not just temporarily, not just their parents' home, but as their home. And that's really touching and special for me, as we put so much effort into finding a place that we wanted to be able to raise our children and to give them a good start on life and to give them a culture and an experience that would be good for them. And I don't think we ever really anticipated that they would end up falling in love with the location so much that they would themselves decide to call it home. We always knew that there was a possibility they might look to Europe and move to Italy or to Spain or someplace like that at some point in their lives, and maybe they still will. But for them to both, with a couple years here, really be focused on, no, they think this is where they want to be, and possibly even in this part of the country, that they really do love it here and they really do identify with it. So all of that said, my daughter wanting to have a quinceañera and have this really important cultural celebration of not just being the age that she is, but also celebrating that connection to this culture is a really important thing for us. It's really touching, and we're very excited about it from that perspective, that she's really choosing to embrace being a member of Nicaraguan society in a way that just we weren't expecting. I wanted to turn the camera around and find a different location so you could see a bit of the sky that's creating the thunder. You can see to some degree there is rain clouds and actually rain coming down somewhere around western Chinandega. So that's what we see off in that direction. It's amazing to me how much living in Leon, we are constantly looking at the weather of Chinandega. The volcanoes that you see out there are actually to some degree past Chinandega quite a bit. And so that's how far away things are. If you look at a map and look at Western Leon and Western Chinandega, you can be like, wow, that's quite a bit of distance that we're seeing in the sky out there. But it's interesting because something about Nicaraguan life really causes us to be tied together as a country. I think because overall the country is just so small and we have so little connection to the outside world. We're so insular by nature that there's a certain amount of feeling like all of Nicaragua is just one really big village. So when something's happening in another city, we're often like, oh, it's happening right now. You know that bridge, you know that place, you know, like everyone knows all the places, and you feel very connected. When there's an earthquake, everyone's like, did you feel that? It doesn't matter where you are in the country. Everyone is like, did you feel that? Did you feel that? How did it affect you? What's going on up there? We're always talking to the other locations. Going back to, you know, the United States, if you're in Dallas, you might talk to someone down the street, but you're not going to call, like if there's an earthquake, you're not going to call the next city, the next city, the next city, and be like, hey, what did you guys feel? What's going on? It's not like that. It just really never happens, partially because the space is so large and because you don't really know people all over the country. But here, for some reason, it seems like we know people just about everywhere. Name a major city and chances are we know someone we can just call up and ask them what's going on in that city. That's very different, I think. And so there's this kind of natural mesh of everyone sort of interconnected in a much more connected way. That was very redundant, but we're not isolated in the way other places are. And when we look out and are like, oh yeah, no, we're looking at Chinandega. That's hours away by car. Not really, it's about an hour. But it feels like such a far away place, yet it's right there and we're watching their weather. And when we hear news of what's happening up there, it's like, oh, no, we can go see. When we hear about their volcanoes, there's something happening to them, we can go look and be like, well, it's erupting, but it doesn't look like very much or whatever. A little bit more thunder going up there right now. So just a gorgeous day. I'm loving this. I'm hoping we get some rain this afternoon. That would be fantastic, but I'm not going to go out for a walk in it this time. So because of the Quinceañera, there's a lot that needs to be done. We have to find a venue. We have to figure out the exact date. I have to get my flights back from Bolivia because that's going right up against it. I have so much going on during November. Obviously, my wife and my daughter are working on coming up with all the different plans because it's kind of like a birthday party. It's kind of like a wedding. It's normally compared to a wedding more than anything else, and it involves all of the like fancy clothing and a band or DJs and special dances and all kinds of traditions. And there's a lot we don't know because we've been to quinceañeras but not in Nicaragua. So we have kind of quinceañera advisors who are helping us with like what are the traditions, which things are done here, which things are not, because we pick up some of the traditions from Texas and Mexico because of where we've been. And so it's a very big experience for us, and it's going to be very interesting as we get closer to that. So that is a huge thing that's starting to go on. And they spent an entire day huddled together going through all kinds of plans and figuring out exactly what they want to do, food and different events and clothing and all those things. And my youngest daughter is not happy that she will have to wear a dress and be all formal for this. But my eldest is like, tough, this is my quince, and that is what we are doing. She's like, fine. It's very funny that this is just so completely not something we pictured her doing. Although when she was little, right, we've always kind of, when she was, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, imagining that someday she would do a quince was not that far-fetched. And we were living in Spain when she was 5, and we were living in Nicaragua when she was 6. And so during that time frame, it was kind of like, oh, maybe someday this is something. So it's always been something just a little bit on her radar. And she watched One Day at a Time when she was a little bit older. She and I were very into sitcoms, and they went into a lot of that culture from a Cuban family in the United States in that show. And so she got some ideas from that and was like, yeah, I think that is something I want to do, and really kind of looked at it from a new perspective. And then coming here, she's just kind of embracing the whole thing. And it's a very special thing for us. and a lot of work. I know it's still September and it's late November, but trying to put a quince together in 2 months is a huge thing. So that is going on as well. So that's keeping my wife very stressed and occupied, while my work is keeping me very stressed and occupied. And you guys can help me out in a couple ways. One, get down there and let me know questions and topics that you want for the show. I say this a lot, but not very many people do. If you do, sometimes you put ones that I just can't do or can't find an easy way to do. So sorry if there's some I haven't gotten to, but go down and leave a comment and be like, I really want to know about whatever thing. If I knew what those things were, I would just cover the topics. But I really struggle to find topics to talk about, especially when I'm just out like walking. If there's specific places you want me to go film as well, for sure, put that down there, but that's much harder because I have to have a lot of time. I have to often be able to get the car, drive somewhere a bunch of time to be able to do it. And I love doing that, but it's very hard to do. But for topics where I'm just out talking, when we're talking about the process of doing a quinceañera, we're not quite ready to tell you about that yet because we haven't done it yet. But like that kind of stuff, or other similar topics of what life is like or what doing activities here in Nicaragua are. And for example, something I want to do coming up maybe in a very soon episode is I want to take Pedidos Ya, our local delivery service, and go through some restaurants on there and show here in Leon what the selection of restaurants actually looks like and what real prices are at those restaurants. So you can really compare like what would a meal ordered through a service like that cost, because obviously that's a very high end of just what's available, right? The most expensive restaurants with an upcharge for delivery, all in a single app. So you can see real world prices as they are today, which I think is very useful. Because everyone always wants to know, like, what do things cost? And it's difficult because things move all the time. The prices are constantly changing, and what you buy and how you do it changes what things cost so much, right? If you're getting local cheese versus imported cheese, it can be very, very similar, right? American slices of cheese can vary by 100 or 200%, whether they're made locally by Cargill over in Managua, or if they're being brought in from Mexico or the United States. Whatever, those prices can be very, very different, right? So understanding some of those things, seeing real world prices can be great. Obviously, the camera died there as I was doing the last thing. The last thing I want to say for today, other than, okay, so I was going to say, you can support the channel just by getting down in the comments and giving me topics, things that you want to see me do, places you want me to go, things you want me to talk about, for sure. You can also support the channel, of course, by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. You can watch an extra episode, hit like on that episode, leave a comment on that episode. Every episode that you watch, like, comment, those things help a lot. Of course, if you go on social media or email one of your friends, go on WhatsApp or Telegram, just say, check out this show, right? Watch a few, give it a like, help out, right? Get the word out there. That's how we grow. So everyone you can share it with or onto social media, just post it on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. That would be so helpful. Thank you so much. And of course, the coffee thing. I have my book out. I am starting to kick around the idea, I've thought about this before, of writing a travel guide. And I'd love to get your feedback on that. I have a feeling that it is something that people who watch this show would support, because that just makes sense. But there really is no one making a travel guide for Nicaragua. And the places that used to, like Lonely Planet, haven't come and put writers on the ground in most of a decade. And so most of them have stopped publishing books, and those that keep doing it, as far as I know, all of them are wildly out of date. As someone who has businesses here, I've talked to other business owners, and they talk about how the travel guides are completely fake, that the COVID process and everything that's happened in Nicaragua has really exposed to us here just how much those books aren't based on reality. They will put out new books with, current dates on them, go through it, and businesses that have been closed for years will be highlighted as if they're things that they just went to and just checked out. They will say, places that are terrible are great, places that are great won't be mentioned, places that have been around for years will be skipped, while things that have been out of business for years are highlighted, right? So that has really exposed things, and we're lucky. We're one of the ones who got in and have been in editions for years, even though we know no one has come and talked to us or looked at the place, and the information they have is out of date, but it still gets you to us. Some friends of ours have really big business, and they're unable to, or they're in a great shape because people are constantly being pushed there, but they're not the business that they used to be, and they're presented in a very different light than they actually are. like these are things that we know firsthand how it's happening, so we have a good feeling for that. And a lot of people we know have businesses that they closed many years ago, and they're still in the travel guide. So people are coming and looking for these businesses based on these travel guides, and they're not there. And so that's a thing. I think having something that's a lot more up to date and a bit more current in how it's approached. I think travel guides. 20 years ago, the need for a travel guide to mention specific hotels, specific restaurants was important because you didn't know what to look for otherwise. But now I think that that's a really terrible thing to have in a travel guide because you're going to go online and you have to. You have to go online and look at when the restaurants open, what their current menu is. Are they still in business? Because these things change day to day. Like there's all this information online, or should be, about restaurants and hotels and those kinds of things, but understanding perhaps attractions or at least things you need to see in an area. Right here in Leon, we have the Basilica, so that's a very important thing to see, and that's not going to go away. So you can put that in a travel guide, but knowing that El Sisteo opens for breakfast at 10 o'clock is something that could change tomorrow, and there's no reason for that to be in a travel guide. It doesn't make any sense. So a travel guide, I think, should put together big scope things, and I think they've missed that as time has progressed. I don't think that the travel guide industry seems to have digitized in the way that it should have, with leveraging the things like Google Maps as just part of that tool set. They're still very much written with the intention that you're not going to have a phone, that you're not going to have internet, that you're not going to have any idea what you're doing, and that the travel guide is going to provide all those pieces. I think that's a waste. I think a good travel guide is going to give you a high-level view and help you understand the context of a place, history, culture, putting together a narrative of a travel. I think that's the important thing, whereas what they've done traditionally, I think is basically worthless. And there's a reason why I don't buy travel guides, but I love the idea. I want to be able to sit on a park bench or ride a bus and flip through a book and not use my battery on my phone, and get ideas of what I want to do and get backstory and understand the places that I'm looking at. I think that is great, but very rarely do I get a travel guide that does that for me. So that is something I'm considering. That would be a lot of work. I wrote a book. I'll mention this now, Linux Administration Best Practices. It is available on Amazon. It's from Pact Publishing. That's what I did in 2021. And so if you'd like to support me, buying that book and leaving a good review does a ton for me. So thank you. As our last thing I wanted to mention, we just started or helped start a sister channel. This is not one that we are running like as a part of my channel, but because of the filming that I do, because of the cameras I have, because of the places that I go, I'm helping out with filming for this. And so the channel is part of NicaRumba.com. The channel is just the NicaRumba YouTube channel, and it is a channel of live music and concerts here in Nicaragua. So the very first episode is up at the time that I'm recording this, and the next one should be up shortly thereafter. So in a few hours, if you're watching this in real time, 7 o'clock in the morning, I think in the middle of the afternoon, you'll see the second one. The first one is a tribute to Pink Floyd. The second one is to the Beatles. Those are already recorded, already edited, already up on the upload for that. You could probably hear my dog smacking her lips in the background. She's being very goofy. And but more is going to be coming, and that's we've tried some of that and put some of those videos here on my channel, and they get some good feedback, but I think it's something that's much more applicable to a channel that is all concerts, and it doesn't make sense for it to be tied to my channel. Like, look, here's a concert I watched. That's weird for the most part. Like, I can mention I went to this concert, but that's kind of the end of what's really interesting. I know that people here on this channel are often interested in, like, what is a night out like in Nicaragua? So those things are valuable, and some of you watch it for that purpose, and I do get some really interesting feedback from that. So I want to have some ways to link things together. But for the most part, going to concerts and recording music and stuff is very different than what this channel is, and doesn't make a lot of sense. So the NicaRumba YouTube channel is dedicated to all the places in Nicaragua. Their hope over at NicaRumba is that they're going to have crews that go out in many different cities, possibly all on the same night, and record many events and upload them, so that it really becomes a repository of the music and the artists and the venues of Nicaragua, so that you're able to, go there and either explore Nicaragua through that side of the culture, obviously that's cool, but much more so, it is a showcase for bands to show what they can do, for people to discover Nicaraguan music, for venues to get noticed, and things like that. All just an extension of NicaRumba.com. That's exactly what they do. For those who are not aware, there's a website that helps sponsor us here that shows events going on around the country. So if you're going to be here in Nicaragua, go to NicaRumba.com. You can find out about concerts, social and cultural events, plays, theatrical events, things like that, all in one place. You can be like, oh, I just don't know where to go tonight. You can filter by your department, say, I'm going to be in Granada. What's going on? Ooh, there's a bar that looks interesting, and there's a band that sounds like they'll be cool. Let's go see them. What time do they start? 8:30. Great. They'll really start at 9 because that's how it works. But you'll have that information listed. You know where to go, when to go, what you're going to see, and make your choices that way. That should be really helpful. Combine that with the NicaRumba YouTube channel, and suddenly you have a way to potentially look at venues and bands and types of music ahead of time and make some selections in that way if you want. Or if you're not living in Nicaragua or you just don't want to get out, you have a place to go watch those things. Maybe there's a band you like and they're playing in Rivas, but you live in Esteli, and that would be terribly long drive. Instead, you can watch them on NicaRumba and get to experience that as well. I know people who from this channel who do that with the concerts and bands that we've recorded here, that they like to watch them just so they have local Nicaraguan music. It's the thing that people listen to here, so it makes sense. This will take that to a whole new level. They're doing a little bit more professional recording over there, so it's going to look a little bit different than what you've seen here. Here it's very raw. There it's still pretty raw, but it's a bit more polished, so definitely check them out. I will do my best to link in the description below, but if nothing else, just go to NicaRumba, one word, and it should come up. Subscribe to the channel, watch the videos, give them a like. Everything helps us here and helps them. Thank you so much. If you need information about relocating to Nicaragua and you're looking for assistance, whether it's a private tour or anything like that, shoot us an email, info@relocatenicaragua.com, and we will see all of you tomorrow.